Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us for yet another engaging session and an engaging webinar with Ranjit at the Automate webinar series. This time, we are going to talk about all the use cases that Automate enables for you when it comes to automating document analysis, invoices, any other bank statements that you would like to integrate seamlessly with your backend. We're going to talk about each of these use cases that we have enabled for multiple customers, and we wanted to take you through that so that you understand what Automate can do for you. To take us through this webinar, we have Ranjit Padmanabhan, who's our CTO, who will take us through this 30-minute webinar. So please let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to park them until the end so that Ranjit could take them in one go. Over to you, Ranjit.
Great. Thanks, Ranga. And thanks to everyone who's joined the webinar. So this is going to be pretty short and sweet, 30 minutes. And I'm going to go through a few slides to provide a little bit of background, and then we'll get into a few use cases. So let me start by describing what Automate does at the high level. I promise not to spend too much time on propaganda. I'll get into the use cases as soon as possible. So we are a workflow automation company. And more recently, over the past few months, we've expanded our capabilities to infuse Gen AI and similar types of technologies into our stack. So today's webinar is going to be focused on two important pieces. The first one is running a bunch of email automation use cases, and the second part is how Gen AI plays a very important part in those kinds of automation. So we call ourselves a hyper automation company, which is basically a blanket term that covers sort of intelligent enterprise automation. So this is just the heading of the webinar. The focus is on email automation. So let me start by describing the importance of email these days on the web. I mean, email is it's more than 50 years old, but it's still a very powerful capability for communication. And you'll see the graphic on the top right of my screen indicating all the different channels that customers use to engage with companies. If you look at shopping specifically on the retail side, even more than 50% of people continue to rely on email for communication. So it's really important to have a strategy that is able to leverage this fact and ensure that you have an efficient capability to respond to email. And as you can see, email is at the top of the list as a very prominent channel. So what I wanted to talk about was broadly, how does email automation help? Email automation is the idea that if you think of email as potentially another channel by which your customers talk to you, automation implies that you provide customers with the capability to send email and receive responses automatically. And during that particular customer journey, what happens at the back end is that the email automation can accomplish a bunch of other tasks as well, which currently might require manual processes or might require live agents. So if you look at the benefits that email automation provides, you get a significant reduction. And these are data that we've gathered from our customers. You can easily get a 50% reduction in the number of live agents in a customer support email automation scenario. Because of the responsiveness and the 24/7 nature of automation, you get a significant boost in customer experience. By leveraging automation to make sure that you have access to the data that's most current and authoritative, you can ensure that your information that you provide by automation is accurate, and so on. So these are some of the really key capabilities that email automation enables. So the bottom line is you can save money, you can save time, and you can improve your customer experience. Automate has a bunch of so we provide a low-code platform for you to enable and create automations. As part of this, we have certain capabilities around email automation that I want to touch upon, and I'll be showing you use cases of each of these capabilities today. First one is automated customer support, where You can set up an automation whereby someone can communicate to you by email, and then you can do what's required on the back end to take the necessary actions, maybe create a ticket or things like that, and construct a response that can be automated and sent back to the customer. All of this within minutes. The second part is to have CRM integration. Quite often, for general purpose questions, people, you can use data from a knowledge base or from a website or something like that. But when people have specific questions about their orders, you need to have the ability to integrate with the CRM and pull information that's specific to them. The third point is around processing attachments. And this is where actually the addition of GenAI has given us a significant boost in capability, where you have the ability now to look at attachments within email and do interesting things with it. So you can parse bank statements, you can take invoices and reconcile them against purchase orders and things of that nature. And finally, there's a whole bunch of other features and capabilities that are available, but I won't be covering those in the demos today. But you can do escalation. So, for example, based on the sentiment that's expressed in an email, you can decide that this particular email gets routed to a human. You can anonymize PII within messages, and when you use third-party large language models and things like that, we can make sure that no PII leaks from your system to those models. And then you have more advanced use cases where you can actually take information, generate videos. We also have the capability, since email is a very interesting format, unlike chat and things like that, email tends to chain. So you get this whole chain of emails where you have one email referencing the previous one, probably, and the topic can drift during the course of a whole email thread. So you need to have the capability to understand that within the context of a full email chain and be able to deal with it. So these are some of the interesting capabilities that we offer. I'm going to jump right into the demos now and show you a few different demos. But before I go too far into that, I want to talk broadly about, you can think of this as a reference architecture for email automation. So when you have email automation, what happens is that you set up something called a gateway. So the gateway is generally associated so for example, if you're automate.com, we'll set up a gateway on your mail server so that people can send email to a specific automate.com address. We call that the gateway. So that's the inbound gateway. So once the email is received, it gets all of the information in the email, including the headers, who it's from, and any other authentication stamps and like DKIM and all of those other kinds of authentication headers can be passed to the platform. So the platform can authenticate your email, make sure that the person who's sending it is properly represented in the to address and things like that. Then what happens is that the platform gets data. It can integrate with enterprise applications, because the core platform ultimately is a workflow automation platform. So we have the inherent capability to integrate with your CRM application, your ticketing application, your billing application, all of that. And separately has access to different types of data. So for example, if you have a knowledge base that needs to be that is continuously being updated, you want to make sure that the platform is not aware of that and is able to take this most recent knowledge to construct the responses. So once an email comes in, we generally package it and we create a prompt. In the parlance of GenAI, we create a prompt that gets sent to a third-party model. The model comes back with a response. We can do some post-processing on the response, and then we send it out, through an outbound gateway back to the recipient. So this is broadly what the email automation architecture looks like. So the best thing is for me to jump in and show you a demo of how this might work. And the first demo I'm going to show you is where as a customer, I'm going to be sending an email, and I'll show you. And this email is in the form of a question. The backend system constructs a response using a variety of tools, that I'll talk about, and then responds via the email channel back to the user. So this provides substantial automation both for customers and for agents in, for example, in a customer support scenario. So let me open up this window, and in this particular demo, I have the identity of William Chen, and I'm going to be sending an email to. I'm going to be composing and sending an email to a support gateway, and in this support gateway, in this particular use case, in this particular use case, think of the company as being a company that provides SIMs for phones. So so we built a knowledge base that reflects the information from a company like that, and so. Yeah, so in this particular use case, what happens is that traditionally what would happen is when a customer sent an email, there would be people within the company who would receive the email. They would then construct a response by pulling appropriate data from a knowledge base. And it also happens that this company has online forums or fora where people are discussing and coming up with responses to questions. So what we do in this use case is that once the question gets sent, the backend platform will actually construct a response to this question based on information from both the knowledge base and the web content, and present that back in email. So I'm going to create. So this is actually an actual question that were an actual typical kind of question that this company was receiving as a SIM company. So I'm gonna just hit send on this. And we have a few tools on the back end. Like I said, you normally set up your gateway to look at, so that you can set it up on your exchange or whatever it is. In this case, I'm using a third-party gateway from a company called Pipedream. So as you can see, the email that I just sent has now been received by the gateway. What's going to happen is that this is now going to be submitted to our platform, and the platform will construct the response from the required knowledge base. This task, when done manually, takes about 12 to 15 minutes for an agent to do this, where they actually go copy paste information from the knowledge base, copy paste information from the web, and put it into a response. In this case, everything is automated. So now you'll see that the user has received a response from the system in response to their question about the SIM not being operational. Now let me break down this response a little bit. So there's a few different capabilities being demonstrated here. In this particular case, we are using one of our favorite large language models, which is the Gemini Pro model from Google. It's really strong when it comes to data summarization, running what is called RAG-like search on data, and and it also performs a very interesting task called snippetization, which is the idea that you can actually take a large body of text, and for a specific question, you can extract the snippet that's most appropriate for as a response, and then put that and then return that response. So you can see that the system has created what we call a generative summary. And this is information from the knowledge base. It creates a generative summary, a generative snippet, and it gives 3 responses. Separately, it's also going to the website, creating a generative response, which is like a summary of what of the information that's available on the web, and then giving me a bunch of links to the most appropriate content. So if I click on this, for example, it'll take me back to the specific knowledge base article that has the information corresponding to my question. Now, in a normal situation, a customer won't be exposed to a knowledge base, but I'm just showing you this as an illustration of the power of this tool. So in other words, I can pull data from a knowledge base, and I can pull data from the web. Likewise, I'm just going to go click on one of the web links, and you'll see that this takes me to a community page. for the SIM company. It's called GIFGAF, and is able to actually pull information about, a whole conversation about what could be the various causes for my SIM not to be operational. So this is the first example that I wanted to show. Coming back to my presentation. This is what the architecture looks like for this particular use case. We send email to a support gateway. It goes through our platform, collects information from a knowledge base on the web, uses Gemini Pro model to construct a response, and this response gets sent through the outbound gateway back to the customer. So that's use case number one. The next use case I want to show is a little bit more complicated. We have a CRM in the back end, which in this case I'm using Salesforce. And the idea would be that when a message comes in from a user, we actually look up the particular record for that user in Salesforce. And we're using a separate transactional database that contains information about transactions that this customer has done. So the use case here is I am a customer of a company from where I purchase certain products, and I want to send email to find out the status of my order or something like that. So let me just show you how that works. Coming back, I'm going to come back to my email screen, and I'm going to compose my next message as user William Chen, and I'm going to send this to what we call the retail gateway. So let me just create a normal email with a normal subject line. And I'm going to say something like, what is the total of my most recent order? And I'm going to hit send. So now we'll wait for the response to come back. Meanwhile, let me also show you what is going on in Salesforce. This is the Salesforce record in the backend, in the CRM for Mr. William Chen. And at the moment, you'll see that there are no cases and things like that. But one of the pieces of information that's sitting here in their record is called the retail ID. This retail ID is the ID of this user within the transactional database that contains the actual information about the order. So now if I go to this, I just wanted to show you, I mean, this is a screen of a backend database that shows me the orders that are in the system. I'm just going to copy this and run this query just to show you that we are actually looking at real data. So if I'm just going to full screen mode, the most recent order was placed on the 5th of August. This is American style dates. And you'll see that there are 4 items with certain amount of quantity, and these are the items that were purchased. This is the weight, this is the price and all that. So if I want to get the total of my order, what needs to happen is that the system needs to go to Salesforce, get the ID, use that ID to actually come to this transactional database, run a query, compute the total value of my order, put all that information into an email and send it back to me. So it's doing a lot of heavy lifting in a completely automated fashion. So let me come back to my inbox, and you'll see that the system was able to construct a response. 5 silver DVDs, 3 touch screens and things like that. So you'll see that this is matches the information in the database: 5 silver DVDs, 3 touch screens, and all of that. An important point here is that once we build this backend capability, while I've been showing you the email channel, you can actually have this. You can run the same question using the same backend knowledge base through a chat-based channel. So I'll just briefly show you what that would look like. So I'm showing you a chat-based channel on the right side of my screen. I'm going to introduce myself as customer William Chen, and I'm going to type in the same question. Let's wait for this to respond, and then I'm going to type in the same question that I sent by email. So it's how can I assist you? I'm going to ask the same question: what is the total of my most recent order? And we basically can use that same knowledge base and the same intelligence to open up the data through a different channel. So it's able to do both of these things with just one database and one knowledge base sitting at the back end. So this coming back to my slide here. This is what the flow looks like. There's an inbound gateway where it goes to our platform. We connect to a CRM. We then use the CRM data to go to a retail database. In this case, we're using the OpenAI GPT-4 model because that's seemed more suitable for getting these kinds of transactional data, and we send a response back to the customer. Let me come back into Salesforce, and I'm just going to go into this panel here. And when I hit reload, you'll see that a new case has also been created in Salesforce. This case corresponds to the question that the customer just sent. And as you can see, the details of the case have also been captured within Salesforce. So this is the second demo. The final demo I wanted to show you is what we call the capability for an incoming email with an attachment to trigger a workflow. So let me go back again to this as this user, and I'm going to compose an email. And I'm going to send this to the extraction gateway. And I'm going to say something like, please process this invoice. And I'm going to attach. Oops. So I'm going to attach this invoice, and I'll show you what the invoice looks like. So once I attach the invoice and send it, it's going to actually get processed on the backend by a workflow. So I'll explain that. So let me just send this invoice, and let me show you what's going to happen at the backend. So at the backend, using our tool, we've created a simple workflow. What it does is analyzes the invoice that's coming in and extracts the fields from it, and then displays it for you in the console. Now, this is the back. So here, this is the workflow that's actually being executed, and then on the back end, you have the ability to actually create different collections of data that need to get extracted from the invoice. So in this case, the invoice, this is kind of a configuration screen. What I'm saying is from the invoice, extract all of these fields for me, like due date, merchant, customer, GST, and all of these fields. So now let's go back and see how the invoice is done. I'm just going to go take a look at this extraction gateway. And so this got completed. And now on the back end, I'm going to log in as this user and look at the most recent invoice that came in. So you'll see that the workflow got triggered, and it created a new task for me called the field extractor. I can look at this field extractor, and it'll show me all the fields that were extracted from this invoice. Let's take a look at the invoice. So you'll see that it has, so you'll see, for example, that the GST of the vendor is 24H something. The GST of the customer is 07A something. And as you can see, it's done a pretty good job. Maybe on the formatting, I've cleaned it up a little bit, but it's extracted the merchant GST, and it's extracted the customer GST and other details from this invoice. So this was done completely without any training. We didn't make any templates or do anything like that to enable this capability. Now, coming back to this invoice, you'll see that, okay, it has a few fields, but it also has some banking information, which I did not extract. So now I have the ability to do that in a very straightforward way by going back to our tool and updating the fields that get generated from this particular incoming invoice. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go look at my invoice and edit it. So these are the fields that were originally being extracted. I'm just going to replace it with an updated.
A polite nudge for you, Ranjit, because we have the 25-minute mark. I just want to leave a couple of minutes for questions too.
Sure. And Ranga, I'm happy to stay a little longer if people want to,
that would be awesome.
Keep the questions coming. I'm happy to do that. So what I've done is I've updated now the configuration and say, now in addition to what you were previously extracting, also extract for me these three fields. And you'll notice I'm not doing any training, nothing. So I'm going to hit save on this. I'm going to go back as a customer. And I'm going to compose, I'm going to resend the invoice. Send the same invoice. And I'm going to hit send on it. And coming back, we can, using our tool, monitor what's going on. So let me just wait. I'm keeping an eye on what's coming in through the extraction gateway. So you'll see that the invoice that has been sent is now sent through this gateway. And it should get processed in a minute at most. Okay, it comes out green and it shows me that everything generally went okay. So now I can come back to my to the backend and reload. Okay, might need to just wait a few seconds here. You'll see that a new field extractor task has shown up. And when I click on it, you'll see that in addition to extracting what it previously extracted, it's also able to extract the bank name, the bank account number, and the bank IFSC code. So I wanted to stop here and just wanted to make it very a short and sweet demo where you can see the different capabilities, and I'm happy to get into conversations where we can talk more about this. In this case, we use the Claude model from Anthropic. And basically, you got email coming in, it triggered a workflow, and we used this particular model. So that's all I had to say for today. So back to you, Ranga, and happy to take any questions.
Sure. I do have three questions, but two were anonymous, so I wouldn't know how to be able to get back to them. So we'll answer them first.
Okay.
So we also have an audience member who raised a hand. Would you mind if I could let them ask it to you live?
Sure, no problem.
Okay, I don't see the hand raised here anymore. Yeah, wait for the audience member to raise it again. But yeah, so the first question was, how do you authenticate the user? And how, for example, William can share the name of another customer in the chat and get data
Right.
for another customer.
Right. Yeah. So in this case, as a demo, we did not include any significant authentication. But the reality is that you can, for example, I have William's phone number here in my in my Salesforce database, and I can send a one-time password to William, for example. So we for our customers, we do simple OTP-based authentication for simple, relatively basic questions. But anytime they're looking at more data that's sensitive, we can do authentication against Okta or against any other kind of single sign-on system where we can like OAuth and all of these kinds of things where we can authenticate the user. So there's a wide variety. In this demo, I showed you some, the very basic, just spelling the name properly.
Awesome. I hope that answers the question. We have another question coming in the chat from Shurit Shah.
Okay.
He was asking, how do I plug in invoice extraction into my application?
Yeah. So invoice extraction is actually available as a REST service. Now, generally speaking, for the you can get decent capability right out of the box for any invoice that you have. But if these invoices are for a specific domain, like say they are for shipping or for hardware or something like that, we can certainly look at tightening and creating more custom prompts or something like that. And that's just a matter of hours or days to actually create that. And once we do that, then you can have you can have your own dedicated REST service that you can use and call from any through an API.
Awesome. Shurit, I hope that answers your question. Just in the interest of time, taking in Ravi's question too. Field extraction, does this work for readable PDFs or for image-based PDFs as well?
Yeah, both. So behind the scenes, what we do is we can take tabular PDFs, which are text-based, or image PDFs, and we run OCR on them.
Awesome. Awesome. I hope that answers your question, Ravi. But the last question is awesome. Ravi acknowledged that works. And the last question was, okay, I do have another question from Shurid as a follow-up. What is the business model for consuming invoice APIs?
So the business model would be, so we generally charge on a transaction basis. So what would happen is that, and specifically for invoices that come through PDF, we charge on the basis of the number of pages in your incoming PDF. So there's a unit cost associated with the number of pages. And so that's can range, in the small number of rupees per page, generally is what we found for every page of PDF. And then as part of our pricing model, we also end up setting a, there's an upfront cost to just build this and roll this out. But it's all very nominal. The idea is it's transactional model.
Awesome. I hope that answers your question, Shurid. And Ravi, I believe you asked for Ranjit's email. I will definitely reach out to you as soon as the webinar is done. Yeah. Thank you. And one last question, how do you decide which models is used for which use cases? Ranjit, if you could take that as well, that's the last one.
Yeah, so we have, we've actually built some in-house knowledge or wisdom, you might call it, around which models are most suitable for certain kinds of tasks. So there are certain, so depending on what you're doing. So in the first example I showed you, there is summarization and snippet extraction. For that, we found that, and there's also document search. We found that for those types of use cases, the Google Gemini Pro tends to be really strong. There are other use cases where you have to do field extraction without any training. So you need a model that is very capable when it comes to looking at PDF and parsing PDF, running OCR and all that. And we found that the Google model is strong and the Anthropic model is very strong on that, and so on. So we have internal knowledge of which tools are useful. We have access to about 20 different models that can be deployed for any particular problem. And based on your requirements, we'll work with you to figure out which model works best for you. We also have a capability to run different models for a single customer based on the specific use case. If you're asking for summarization, we'll run a model. If you're asking field extraction, we might run a different model.
Awesome. I know that was a very quick adrenaline rush to answer like 5-6 questions in the span of 5 minutes, Ranjit.
Yeah.
If there are any more questions coming in, I hope that we are able to answer them via email. So please send us your questions via email to the same email that you got the registration invite from, and we would be able to answer those for you. Look forward to more such webinars if you like what you saw today, and you will have more team members from the Autonomy team also showcasing more capabilities that you could deploy in your organization. Thanks once again for your time, and hope this was time well spent.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ranjit,
everyone.
for taking us through this. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.